Okay, evening, sisters and few brothers that's here with us. We're gonna actually start in Ecclesiastics because I was looking at the Colith again yesterday, last night and early this morning, and I happened to hit the wall. No, the shepherdess is what it's got. It shepherd, of course. Everything's masculine in the Bible, of course, because female isn't anything special. It's him that's special, after all. Sorry about that. Okay, so I was reading in Ecclesiastics, and it kind of took me to the jumping off point that I want to lead off from. I hope I didn't just exit. Okay, yeah, okay. So you just, see my computer. I got so many tabs up, it's gonna be slow. Okay, so where is it? Oh, I did exit, didn't I? But that's okay. Okay, so we're gonna go back here. Sorry about that. So we're gonna look at this word that appears in Ecclesiastics chapter 12. And the word is translated as preacher in most of these passages in Ecclesiastics. And we were looking at it in the context in Ecclesiastics 12 is what we were actually looking at it in. And the word that is translated as preacher is Strong's Hebrew 6953, and it's koheleth. It means a collector of sentences, and they've got it translated as a preacher. I don't know where they get it from. It's not a preacher. It's the koheleth. It seems to be an office of some sort, and I would suggest an office of a wise woman is what it was. And it says feminine. It's a feminine noun of active participle from kahal, a female assembler, a lecturer. Now, they try to say it's a nom de plume of a preacher. Yeah, right, that don't work. I'm sorry. That's just a little bull. From the bull crappers, it's absolutely a female assembler. So when we go in, it means a great collector, deep investigation. A great collector of sentences, and some says it's a pseudonym of Solomon, the pseudonym of Book of Ecclesiastics. Well, it's not. It's the Holy Spirit. It's the office of the Holy Spirit, I believe, which I'm not so sure that isn't a made-up term itself. When you're developing a religion, you start to develop new terminology. So I tend to think this was an office of the wise women, an office for them. And so when we get looking at what it actually says about her, I'm sorry, I just had this up. My shoulder's bothering me. I pulled the wrong one up. And of course I had to X the tab that I had up with it on it. Right. Okay. So it's Ecclesiastics. I could have just went down. Sorry. It's Ecclesiastics 12, and it's verse 8, 9, 10, 11 that we're going to take a here. Now, we've studied this multiple times on multiple occasions, but it's actually going to lead us from the commentary into the passages that we're really going to take a look at tonight. So it says not only was the teacher, and most of them's got preacher, so it is a preacher. Not only was the teacher wise, not only was she wise, it's a wise woman, but she also imparted knowledge to the people. She pondered and she searched out and she set in order many proverbs. The teacher searched to find delightful sayings and to record accurate words of truth. And indeed, she does. This is a wise woman. It's a female assembler, remember. So when we go in and we actually take a look at the commentary, and I can't remember exactly which verse of these 3 or 4 here that I was looking at in the commentary section. So we'll just scroll down until we find it here. Sorry about that. I did have it up, but I accidentally X'd it. Okay, so it doesn't appear to be this one. No, it's not. So it may well be the next one. Yeah. This may be it. Oh, yeah, that don't look right either. Picture. And I'm even late. It's not there. It's not that one either. Let's see if it's the next one. No? Maybe I've gone too far. Maybe verse 9. Okay. Because I had the whole commentary section up. It's funny it still ain't there somewhere. I did so have it up. Oh, don't that make me mad. Every time. It's just amazing. Okay. Let's go back to 8. Now I'm thinking it must have been 8. Okay. No, it's not 8. Oh my gosh. Do you think anything can ever go right? Okay, let's go back up. And I didn't read which one it was under. So let me see. I'm just thinking how I went about finding that commentary. Okay, so maybe it was the actual word coalith. Let me try that. Oh, stop. I'm surprised it isn't under this one. Let me go back in and look. Okay, let's go down here. Yes, okay. Okay, so let's just simply go right in here. All right. I think this is it. So it was verse 9. I was just under the wrong part of the verse. And so we'll get moving along. I would read this. I had thought I was going to read it, but where I wasted so much time trying to re-find it again. It says this. It says, and I forget which commentary I'm going to read. Benson commentary. We'll just go through it. Most of them says much the same thing, I would suspect. It says he. Now we're going to change out the he pronoun for what it truly is, the she. We're looking at the wise women that they targeted, they went after, but she was the one who was teaching knowledge, and she is at the end. So she still taught the people knowledge. As God gave her this wisdom that she might be a teacher of others, so she used it to that end. She gave heed. She did not utter whatever came into her mind, but seriously pondered both her matter and her words. Therefore despise not her counsel. The preacher, the female assembler, the coalith, sought to find out acceptable words. So they got the Hebrew word here, words of desire or of delight, worthy of all acceptance. Well, at least of acceptance for those who wants to receive the truth, such as would minister comfort or profit to the hearers or readers. And that which was written by not the preacher, the teacher, or the female assembler in this and her other books was upright, right, or straight. Now, what does she, the one who's birthing her children in Isaiah 47? She said, I will lead you in pathways that you have not known. I will make crooked things straight. So it's interesting that when you get reading through these commentaries, that's going to lead you through all of that understanding, all of it. So was upright, right, or straight, agreeable to the mind or will of God, which is the rule of right, not crooked or perverse, which is what we got ruling in the heart of man and woman today, unfortunately. Woman wants to play his harlot, and man wants her to play his harlot. So that's, and we get this. We're going to dig into this. So even words of truth, not fables, cunningly devised to deceive the simple, but true and certain doctrines, which commend themselves to the reasons of those willing to listen. It's got men's reasons, no, women's reasons and consciences, wholesome and edifying counsel, the words of the wise, of spiritually wise and holy, not men, women of God, are as goads and as nails, and boy, aren't we, they don't want to hear this, piercing into men's dull minds. Women's dull minds as well. We have quite dull minds when we're listening to him to do our thinking for us. And quickening and exciting them to the practice of all duties fastened by the masters of assemblies. Now we're getting down here where we want to hit at, okay? Fixed in women's memories and hearts, in which they make powerful and abiding impressions by the ministry of the teachers of God's not church, but people, whether prophetesses or others appointed by God for that work, which are given from, this is where we want to go, given from one, not shepherd, shepherdess. So where does that take us to? Well, it actually takes us to the book of Genesis, does it not? So we're kind of rehashing some old information. We're going to throw a little bit of new in as we go. So in Joseph's blessings, which we've identified, the 10 northern kingdoms actually represented the feminine and where the feminine Lord will come from. And her number is identified as 136. And I say come from, but she is the Holy Spirit reigning. She's where my information is coming from, and she's where your information is supposed to be coming from. So all of our information is coming from this Lord who promised that in the end she would not abandon us. And her number is identified in the Old Testament as the sovereign Lord and as Strong's Hebrew number 136. You can call her Lord of Lords. She's the Lord of Kings, and she's also the Lord of her queens, right? Us. If you want to call us queens, I don't like titles. I don't. Oftentimes you have to identify titles in order to get the idea out there. So when we go here, we're going to find where the true shepherdess comes from, which is your sovereign identified, and it's your feminine. She comes from the North Kingdom. That's where your key of David flowed from. This is how we identified. This is one of the passages, of course, of a total of 5, 6, or 7 there that we used to identify. I can't quite remember. It was somewhere in that number. So verse 22 of Genesis 49, this is Joseph's blessings. It's to do with the feminine. It is not to do with the masculine. So Joseph is a fruitful bough, even a fruitful bough by a well, whose branches, that word for branches there, is daughters, run over the wall. Well, look at that. We get a wall there. Well, we've looked at this wall before, but we're going to look at it in a slightly different way to what we have been. We're going to actually look at it in a heavenly battle that's playing out, continues to be playing out right now. So the archers, the word for archers here is your husband, Baal, B-A-A-L. Let's look it up. Branches is daughters running over the wall. So we get this wall here. And there became this division, this wall between the North Kingdom known as Ephraim or Joseph or Israel. It's her name in the north. And then in the south, we got Judah, which was largely made up of 2 to 3 tribes, that being Judah, that being Levi, and Benjamin would have been right on the border between them, saying that that's where the temple kind of falls in that territory. They would say, being shared by the north and the south, is some of your understanding. We identified the south as male and the north as female, where your female sovereign comes from, that was denied. Now, between here was this gateway where the daughters would flow through as the living water, as the living word, and as the government of God upon this earth. And her house was known as the house in the forest of Lebanon. And this is where they went after to tear her house, her body, her spirit out of the land and install a harlot. So the word for archers here is your husband that shot at these daughters, these branches, the scepter, Zion. We saw them silencing her on the hills of Israel in Ezekiel. I can never remember the passage, 17 or 19. And they bitterly grieved. They got him, no, her, and shot at her, and hated her. So the word for, and it says, and the owners, 1167, for the word archers, owner, Lord, bridegroom, dominant. Oh my gosh. If I hear that word one more time, they love using that word, dominant, because I'm dominant, because I'm dominant. If you've got to use the word dominant 100 times in 5 minutes, believe you me, there's nothing dominant about you. I mean, if you've got to say you're dominant and an alpha, you got to say it. Then you're not. You're clearly not. It's just a word. It's simply a word that they made up. There's nothing dominant about them. It's them and their ridiculous notions of wanting to play God, man. So yeah, you get bridegroom, husbands, masters, schemers. Yeah. owners, lords, and you get archers. They'll translate it as archers, okay? So that's your word, 1167, which if you go ahead one, it will be 1168, and it'll say same as Baal. So your idol Baal is your husband. That's what it's telling you. And you were to have no idol before you, neither male nor female, and you can preach Jesus all you want. He is an idol, and the Bible warns you of making idols. So you are found in full transgression of all of God's laws because you went from not making idols to making male idols. That's what it says. And they have bitterly grieved her, not him. They were shooting at the daughters, the branches, as they passed over the wall. Now, let's move on because we're still moving into this shepherdess. In verse 24, what does it say? But her bow, her covenant, abode in strength, and the arms of her hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty God of not Jacob, Israel. That was her name, and he stole it. He wrestled with her, and he stole her birthright from her. Her birthright was her children. And she becomes his harlot when we see him walling up his transgression in a wall, behind a wall. And what he walls up is a harlot. And he hides that transgression in his heart. And he says, this is the way of God, right? So from thence is the shepherdess, not shepherd, the stone of Israel, the rock of Israel, right? Well, Deuteronomy 32:18, she says, you forgot the God, you forgot the rock that writhed in pain to birth you. Well, that is not a father. That is your mother, who is the stone of Israel, and also your shepherdess that you denied from the beginning. And you turned your back on and said, oh, I get so tired. Some of them will come on here and make comments, and I don't know if they remove them themselves, but they'll make this comment to the effect, well, what about father? What about father? Because I preach about mother, right? I teach about mother. I teach about wisdom. I've been told to do that, and I'm doing what I've been told to do. And I'm so flabbergasted, there's a word, at these male-oriented channels that preach nothing but father and son, and I never see a woman go on those channels and say, hey, what about Mother Wisdom? She's the other half of the Godhead, and by the way, father is not superior to her. Get that one out of your heads. They taught you that one too, to keep you debased and defiled at their feet. Stop it. God says you don't bow to no idol. You follow my way. And what was the first command? You were to have no other God before you. Well, you created yourself some male gods, didn't you, boys and girls? So you better get the story straight, but you don't want the truth. And she promised you in the end, she said, don't worry. The ones who are not ordained to have the truth won't have it. Right? I'll bring it to those with a willing heart. Right? And that's going to be largely the daughters with the willing heart. She says, the snare they laid for you, my precious daughters, to fall into, they're going to fall into it. Who's that? The harlots and Baal, who wants to be worshipped as God. They're going to fall into it, and they have. They have. Depart from me, all you workers of iniquity. I never knew you. And this religion creates iniquity. It does. So the archers have sorely grieved her, shot at her, and hated her. And boy, do they. But her bow, her covenant abode in strength. This is going to actually take us to, what's the 2 Samuel 22 or 2 Samuel 23? Or is it 1 Samuel? And it speaks all about her being strengthened by the Almighty. It's got the he pronoun, of course, but once you understand that the shepherdess is identified as your stone, she's identified in Deuteronomy 32 as your rock who writhed in pain to birth you, and that's your mother, who is your rock, your foundation stone, wisdom that you denied. So we get the wall, we get the shepherdess and the stone, and we get the wall here with the daughters climbing over the wall. Now, this is what, we get in, we'll skip ahead here right quick to this passage, right quick, right there. And we will find it. And I meant to do some research on this, but I just didn't get to it. Judges 5:20, what does it say? It does speak of a heavenly battle going on, which is why we're going to go into Draco. So from the heavens, the stars fought, and from their courses, they fought against Caesarea. Well, I think they fought against her. And I haven't gone into research on Caesarea yet, but I'd like to do that because that heavenly battle is very interesting. And there's so many details in it that has to be discovered, but it takes so much time to do it. But it takes me into Wikipedia, Draco. So why is that important? Because we get a wall in the constellation of Draco. And we know that there was a heavenly battle. We see it being fought in Judges. We just saw the mention of them fighting from, let me go back in here and do it. Judges 5:20. It says, from the heavens, the stars right there, fought from their courses, from their circuits, right? They fought against Sisera, which they claimed to be a king on earth. All right. So they were, but we see them sieging the wall of Ariel, is what they put her under siege. We're going to look at that. So I don't think it's Sisera. I don't. They were fighting against Ariel. That's who they were fighting against. So back to Draco. We get this wall in Draco. What's another word for Draco? Dragon. What's another word for a dragon? A serpent. What's another understanding in allegory or figurative? The understanding of a dragon or a serpent? A cunning woman, a wise woman. They're considered to be a very wise creature, a serpent or a dragon. And we know that he took her throne of power. So it's interesting. So where might her throne actually be? Well, we get this in the constellation of Draco on Wikipedia. When you go in, it says this in, okay, let me scroll up here and see the title here, or the heading at this particular section. It says deep sky objects, and it's in the Draco constellation. And it says the Hercules Corona Borealis Great Wall. Oh, look, we got a wall. Possibly the largest known structure in the universe, covers a part of the southern region of Draco. So, you know what? We got a wall there. We got daughters running over a wall, don't we? We've got daughters running over the wall. And I think they can run over that wall when they come out of the womb of Sheol, established in the truth. You cannot come out of the womb of Sheol established under a lie. You cannot make a run at that wall without being established on the truth. Once you're established on the truth, you get a run at that wall. We're going to take back our kingdom that belonged to us in the beginning, that he usurped authority over, that he had no authority over. And so we get this wall, and it's so interesting because that's actually what the Bible keeps reinforcing, that he created a wall. Now, there's another interesting word here we're going to take a look at, and that's 5175. And I don't know how to say the word, Nakawash, I'm sorry. Nakash, we'll say. 5175, a serpent. And when we go down, if we scroll down a little bit, we look in the notes here, it'll say serpent, a viper. We know all those nasty words they have to say about women. They love to beat women down. Well, that's one of the real characteristics of fallen Adam. And with his lies, he does nothing but gnash and gnash and gnash and gnash at her. That's what he does. And there's a word in the New Testament, and I'll never find it again. But I've got it written down in my notes years ago. I wrote it down because it would keep coming up, that he loves to really just gnash about little nothings all the time, just to kick her down every chance he gets. He really gets off on it. And I don't know about you, but I know a lot of men, that's exactly what they do to women. It don't matter how small a mistake you made, baby, they'll use it. They'll use it. And it can just be inconsequential, and it, baby, is something to really gnash at you on. So I don't know about others, but I've certainly been around those kinds enough. So what's interesting about this word, a rod becomes, apparently as hissing, bronze image of a serpent, a fleeing serpent of an eclipse dragon, an eclipsing dragon, right? So what would he be eclipsing? Now I'm going to share something with you. I don't know if I should share it or not. But we also get that he mars her path before her. Now, how might he mar her path before her? We get this crooked pathway. We speak of this crooked pathway with she, who will deliver her children, which we just read there in the commentary under that verse in Ecclesiastics, this crooked, make the crooked straight. Well, it takes us to her, the Holy Spirit. She says, long time have I held my peace, now will I go forth as a travailing woman. I will destroy and devour at once, and I will make the crooked thing straight. She's straightening out the pathway. And she says in Job, we're going to look at it in a minute, 30 or 31, she says, they mar my path before me. Well, how might they mar her path before her? Well, I saw in a dream, and I don't know if I was bearing witness to it or if it was me doing it. But I'll say I'm bearing witness to this red planet. It was like a sun almost, this red planet, and it was being blown up. It was being destroyed. And the purpose was to get to the planet that was behind it. And the planet behind it was orange. And that's all I was allowed to see. And the only thing I can think of is that they have used a crooked planetary alignment to mar her path before her, to prevent her, right? And we understand that it's all part of this verse here, which we identified with, where are we? With Virgo and the moon at her feet. Oh, was it that far back? I didn't think it was. Oh, it wasn't. So I obviously went by it. What does she say? It's a verse in Job. So where is it? Okay, it's ahead. She says in Job 30, verse 12. Why would she say this? I mean, paying attention to this, the fact that this is a heavenly battle. They fought from the stars, and we know Ariel came under siege. They attacked her wall, right? And they daubed it over, right? This is the whole part that we're going to look at. But in Job 30, verse 12, she says, they pushed my feet away. Why is that important? Because in Revelation, the moon is at her feet. Well, where is the moon right now in context to the earth, if the earth is actually representing Virgo? Well, I Googled that, or I asked that information, and I don't know, is it in this book? I'm sorry. I get distracted easily with other topics that I'm not supposed to be really dwelling on. I think I wrote it in this. And it said no. It says the moon does not circle right at the middle. It doesn't circle below. Technically, it circles above the earth. Well, then that leads you to this understanding of the Psalms of degrees, right? And the Psalms of degree has the idea of a slow return back to the mother, to wisdom, to her mother and wisdom. So she's turned her feet away. And she did that in anger, but she says they turned her feet away. So if you've got the moon here, and then you've got a picture of Virgo with the moon at her feet, then she's supposed to be turned this way, right? So the moon ain't at her feet. But when the moon is at her feet, then she's able to birth her children out through and over or through the wall, right? And we see them daubing that wall up in allegory. So we get the Psalms of degree, and then we got return, O Shulamite. What might we see when the Shulamite returns? As it were, the company of two armies. So it's a matter of piecing it all together. I don't care what the boys say on the pulpit. They can play God all they want. They can act pious and righteous all they want. They're not. From their heart, there is nothing but wickedness in there. And we know it from Isaiah 47. And so we're going to look at it. I'm just looking for the question I had asked. It seemed like it was more towards the end that I had asked in this book and wrote it down. Let me see if I can find it here. Sorry. I never know where the Spirit's going to lead me. So just give me a moment. Not there. Not there. Not there. Oh, now we're to the end, of course. No, no, I really thought it had written in that book. But it tells you that no, the sun, the moon actually circles above the middle of the earth. It doesn't circle at the meridian, or it circles above it. And from all understanding, it's not supposed to be there. And she says in Job 30, verse 12, they push my feet away. But there's also the understanding she turned her back on him too. So she allowed it. She allowed them to push her feet away. She turned her back on them. The them is Draco, or the moon. We saw Sennacherib's name actually leading us straight back to the moon god, Sin. And then it says sin has replaced the brothers, or sin has reshaped the brothers. We saw Sennacherib actually being the one who went after the glory that sat between the cherubim. And then he mocks Hezekiah when Hezekiah goes up to this Lord, 136, daughter Zion, who shakes her head at thee. Who'd she shake her head at? Well, she wasn't shaking it at Hezekiah. She was shaking it at Sennacherib and what Sennacherib was doing, which was to defile her. They blasphemed her. It says, you blasphemed the Holy One of Israel. And it was the daughter of Zion herself that he was blaspheming. And so we get that Sennacherib says to Hezekiah, you're going to go up to this Lord and ask for her help? I've torn down every god in all these kingdoms that I've went to. And he says to Hezekiah, your God will be no different. Well, she was. She actually delivered Hezekiah at that time right out of Sennacherib's hand. And she says, I will cause, what did she say? I will cause a rumor, a whisper to come into Sennacherib's ears. And what happened? 185,000 soldiers were struck dead in one night from the presence, the angel of the presence, which was, these are females. This was a female angel. So they held some kind of power. I mean, they really did. And I got an idea that that's what this is really all behind it, that that's what they're trying to prevent us from catching on, our power. That is ruled by wisdom through the Holy Spirit. That's how we find this power that they're terrified of us finding, because they know there's judgment at the end of that for what they did. So she fled to the earth and then flipped it upside down, turning her feet away from the powers of darkness. This is why the dragon tries to devour the woman and stop her from bringing forth her firstborn daughter, which is ordained as the next ruler in Draco. So there comes a time when she turns back. So the woman is the Holy Spirit speaking to a daughter, or us daughters. Let's face it, Draco is a large constellation. It's going to take, I think, more than one female. There's multiple planets out there in that constellation. Draco means dragon. Dragon means serpent. Serpent allegorized as a cunning woman, burning fiery serpent. We get that when Balaam told Balak to go get his women from the surrounding Adamic nations and said, well, if you really want to take out the right hand of God, which was identified as the wise women inside the nation of Israel, he says, take your women and send them in and seduce the men. Take them out with the lie. And when you take them out, the right hand of God will fall. And that's just what we see them doing. And it's allegorized as serpents coming in and biting the men, poisoning them with the doctrine. So what was Moses ordained to make? A serpent on a pole, on a scepter. This is your true scepter. And if you turn from this harlot scepter that had been taught by fallen man, we're going to get into that a little bit more. If you look to this true scepter, you will live. And that was the wise women themselves inside the nation of Israel, identified as the serpent on the pole. So this was also one of the images representing the divine feminine. And there was 3 or 4 of them. What's it called? The Nahash. The Nahashta was the Hebrew word for the serpent on the pole. That was one of the images that Hezekiah went out and tore down. He tore down that, and he tore down 2 other ones that we identified as female, and I can't remember. I can post the video under this when I find it. It is on 8th Day Dawning that we did that study. But Hezekiah went up and he purposely toward these particular images down, and they were all we identified as female representations of power. And so he tore that down. And while God said, that's fine. I told you not to make images, neither male nor female. And you're trying to pin this on me. She says, I didn't tell you to make those images. You went up and you went against my word. But she said, you left the male one standing. Now, why would you do that, Hezekiah? And yet she chose to side with Hezekiah, and she delivered him from the hand of Sennacherib. So it's all in there, but you really got to be willing to study for the truth. You can't be one of these men on the pulpit who's built up through pride and arrogance. Father, Satan is their father. That's fallen Adam, another name for fallen Adam. And another name for Satan is Baal-zebub. There you go, Baal, husband, bridegroom, Lord and man. He's so clever. He's so clever. But anyway, so we're going to backtrack here, and we're going to go to Jeremiah 51, because there's a wall in Jeremiah 51 as well. And so let's backtrack here. Do we want to? Okay, so Jeremiah 51, we'll start reading. We may skip as we go because there's a little bit more that we need to get through and touch on. So thus saith the Lord, behold, I will raise up against Babylon and against them that dwell in the midst of them that rise up against me a destroying wind. Oh, there's an important phrase. Destroying wind. We're going to look at that. So I'm just telling you, mark that in your mind. Destroying wind. I'm just looking for my passages that I marked down here. Yeah. So yeah. So in Ezekiel, that's going to take us to Ezekiel 13. This destroying wind that she's threatening them with. She's threatening Babylon. What's Babylon? The harlot. Okay, no, let's not read this first. Let's read this wall right quick. So we can pull this all together, why this is so important to understand what the wall is. And that's going to take us to this verse in, not that one. Did it get pushed out? Oh, it got pushed down. Okay, regardless, we'll go here. I say there. B, it's not there. Was it backtracked? Sorry. Okay, so it is here. Okay, so we're going to go to Job 31. Not that one. Not that one. That one. Job 31. And you scroll down to 33, and you're going to get this. Job 31, 33. Job 31 is an important chapter, and Job 30 is too. If I covered my transgressions as Adam by hiding mine iniquity in my bosom. Let's read another rendering. If I concealed my sin as people know, it's as Adam, man does, by hiding his guilt in his heart. Have I covered my transgressions as others do, as man does, by hiding my guilt in my heart? She comes clean. She actually comes clean, and it was promised she would come clean at the end. She says, I'll raise you up at the end. And she never did leave the truth. All right. She fell for the lie for a little while, but in the end, she finds the truth. Now, Adam is guilty of covering over the transgressions in his bosom. And she responds to that accusations that he makes, which again, this is so important to understand. And people just don't care to understand it. It's like, oh, it's just all part of the Bible, whatever. But she says, let me see if I can find it better here, if I've got it actually pulled up. I believe I do. And it is found in Job 31, 36. She said, surely I would take it upon my shoulder and bind it as a crown upon me. So what is she talking about? She says, I got to pull out of this just for a second, and then we'll go back to it. She says in verse 35, though, let the Almighty answer me and let my accuser compose an indictment. So the accuser here, we discovered, and we did a video on it, was man. The word for accuser here is man. Well, who would he be accusing? Well, let's go back to the very beginning. Who did he accuse? He accused his wife, didn't he? So it's she who's speaking, and we know in 31 it's absolutely she, because it all takes us back to the Shulamite. Everything takes us back to the Shulamite as the one that he accused. And so sure, or in allegory, we get this name, but it's female, is your idea. And so she says, surely I would wear it on my shoulders. I would put it on like a crown. And so I had the commentary pulled up to Job 31:36, and she says, surely I would take it, the book or writing containing the charges against me upon my shoulder, as a trophy or a badge of honor, and bind it as a crown to me. I would be so far from being ashamed or terrified that I would glory and rejoice and triumph in it, nay, and openly expose it to be read by all, well knowing that so groundless and impotent an accusation would only serve the more to clear my innocence. And it has. It has. Once we actually dug into this book of accusations written by our accuser, man, and she says, would that he had written a book. I would wear it like a crown upon my head, and I would use it to clear my innocence. And she has. That's what we've done on this channel. And so what do we find this wall? Oh, why is the wall so important allegorically too? Well, first of all, we saw them running over the wall, and I'm going to take it because not only is our accusations found in here, but the little book sealed up that gets uttered by the 7 daughters of wisdom, they utter it at the end of days, is the little book sealed up, in which is her actual case and refutement. And so she says to him in Psalm 50, she says, I would rebuke you, Adam. I will set the case in order. Takes you back to the Koheleth again. And I would lay the charge in order because you've got it all wrong. You accused me. So when we go to, where was I going? Oh man, I forgot that. Oh, why didn't I write that down? Yeah, we go to, I know where I was going. I never told you, but you've got to know where we're going, right? We're going to Isaiah 47. So what's the transgression he has walled up? What's the transgression that he walled? What's the great sin that he walled up? And he whitewashes the wall, all right? So she says, I'm going to use a destroying wind, all right? And that's an angry spirit is your allegory. Us daughters with the truth on our tongue. So in Isaiah 47, you find the harlot. Excuse me. And she says this. She says this. Where is it? Inheritance. Where does she say it? Right there. She says in verse 10, she says, for thou hast trusted in thy wickedness. This is wisdom saying this to her wicked daughter, the harlot. For you have trusted in wickedness, and thou hast said in thine heart, none seeth me. Why? Thy wisdom and thy knowledge, and this is the women of today. It's talking about who's in this man-made religion, bowing at the feet of an idol, thinking they're so brilliant, thinking they're so wise, and they're really the stupid ones. There's mother speaking about here. Thy so-called wisdom and thy knowledge, it has perverted thee. You are perverted in the way that you think. If you think God ordained woman to bow down at the feet of a man and act like his harlot and worship him as if he's God, and you can say, no, he doesn't. Father and Son, all glory to Father and Son, that gives him power to write the law on this earth, and you are nothing more than a harlot. That's why he walled in his transgression. She says, none seeth me. But she says, you women who thinks you're so smart, your wisdom and thy knowledge, it has perverted thee, and thou hast said in thine heart, I am and none else beside me. Oh, guess what? You're the adversary to the righteous rod. to the righteous daughters who rule. You're the adversary, a harlot wife who bows to husband and says, he's my head, I must listen. And yet he's got this harlot Babylon, Isaiah 47, she says, come down, Babylon, there is no throne for you. There never was. Your own wisdom, it has deceived you. And she says, I will never be widowless. I will never be childless. I'm hid in his heart. And what has Adam got here in Job 31:33? And this is allegorized as a wall that he daubs up. And what's he got locked in there? This harlot Babylon's locked in there in Isaiah 47, and she's deceived by her own wisdom. She thinks she's so bloody wise. Bowing to this pious idol of a man, husband, Lord and God. And God says, I told you to have no idol before you, neither male nor female. I told you to walk in the way of God. So we get the wall here, and we get him actually daubing it in. So let's go to that again, and we'll look that word up briefly. Job 31:33. And it's the same passage where she says, oh, that my accuser, that's man, had made an accusation against me. He did in this book right here. And yet her defense is found sealed up in the little book. Takes you to the Koleth, who sets the case in order, the Proverbs. She still teaches knowledge. She's wise. She does that. And wisdom identifies you as one of the Almighty's daughters. That's what it identifies you as. 33. She says, if I had covered my transgressions as Adam. Well, she fesses up. And she says, well, I fell for this lie a little bit of time, but I got back up. I figured it out by hiding mine iniquity in my bosom. If I covered my sin over like Adam did, by hiding guilt. What's he hiding in his heart? Woman as his harlot. He wants her bowed at his feet. That's what it's telling you. And so he puts this wall in play. It's a whitewashed wall. We're going to look at it in a minute. If I have concealed my sin as people do, as man does, covered. Now, is that the word? Far ahead, aren't I? Yeah. Is it 3? That one? Yeah, I think it is that one. Okay, let me go back there. Oh, I did write it down. I can never follow myself half the time. Okay. It's here. So it is 3680. And it means to fill up hollows. Right? Yeah, it means to cover over. Right, which is what Adam did with his does mother say? What does God say? Come down, Babylon. There is no throne for you. There never was. Get down off that throne, you harlot, bound to an idol of a man as if he's Lord and God. And your own wisdom, it has deceived you. They changed out the true foundation, the rock, for a harlot spirit. And we're going to find that he actually was a fox when he did it. He dug it out. And then he whitewashes the wall. And she says to her daughter in Isaiah 52, take the yoke off of your neck, the man-made religious lies and law system that he's got on your neck, burdening you with false burdens. The law system of religion that tells women she's got to bow to her husband as if he's her head. He is not her head. He never was. And that's what mother's angry about, her daughters playing the harlot. Your own wisdom, it has deceived you. It has perverted your thinking. And we read in the Apocrypha, they changed out true love for hate and called it love. And that's just what these harlots do. They can't think. They're not wise enough. They are perverted. She says, your own wisdom, it has perverted thee. We just read it. Thou hast said, none seeth me. Thy wisdom and thy knowledge, it has perverted thee. And it is. You watch these women with their so much bloody pride. We got it right. Jesus is the way. Jesus is the way. Your wisdom and your knowledge, harlot, it has perverted you. And you have said in your heart, I am, and none else beside me. Well, meanwhile, the real branch is going to come out of the womb of Sheol, birth, and they will make an attack at Draco's wall. So, where do we get that? All right, I think this is the next passage we need to pull in. And that is found in, I'll get there. And this will probably be the last place we go to. Oh, come on. Okay, I pulled it up at the end. Yeah. It is. Sorry. I'm just looking at other words here I had pulled up. Yeah, it's right there. Okay, so right there. Okay, so now I got to backtrack on that so we get into the right passage here. So it's in Ezekiel. Let's start reading in Ezekiel chapter 13. And this was one of the passages that we actually managed to identify the key of David with. There was 5 or 6 or 7. Like I said, I can't remember exactly how many now. It seems like the number actually went up over time as more and more began to really factor in to identify that. So let's just begin in verse 1 of Ezekiel 13. Now remember what Jeremiah 51. Oh, okay. No. I'm sorry. I wanted to get to the wall in Jeremiah 51. So we had started reading Jeremiah 51, sorry. So like I said, we're probably going to skip a lot of this. Thus saith the Lord, behold, I will raise up against Babylon, against them that dwell in the midst of them, that rise up against me, against my righteous daughters, a destroying wind. A destroyer. So the destroyer can destroy the truth, as in the beginning. That's what he did. He destroyed her truth. And in the end, she will rise up and destroy the lie. I will send unto Babylon fanners that shall fan her and shall empty her land or his land. For in the day of trouble they shall be against her round about. That's right. Those with the truth. So don't let the archer string his bow. Don't let him put on his armor, and don't spare the young men. Completely destroy her entire army. So that's the destroying wind in allegory, right? They're going to completely destroy this religious life. Man is God in the land. That's the wall coming down in allegory. Those who were slain will fall in the land of the Chaldeans. So we get a physical overlay, then we get a spiritual overlay at the end. Let's go down, because we want to get to suddenly Babylon fell and was shattered. Wail for her. Get balm for her wounds. Perhaps she can be healed. So she can be healed by the truth if she chooses it. But if she chooses to think she's wise as a harlot bound to an idol that God told you to never be found bowing to, then there's nothing that can be done for her. The Lord has brought about our vindication. Come, let's tell in Zion what the Lord our God has accomplished. Sharpen your arrows, your teeth, which will gnash the lie. Oh, the land, she says, I'll make you your teeth a new threshing instrument. That's the arrows in allegory. So she's actually stringing our covenant, our bow, so that we can fire these words off of. That's all your allegory, because we get the archers who actually did it at her as the daughters passed over the wall. They were rejecting her covenant in the land so they could build their own up and tear her right down to the ground. And that's what they did. They tore her house down, which was the house in the forest of Lebanon, and where her right to write the law actually came from. And so they tore this covenant right down. But here at the end, she sharpens her arrows, fills the quivers. The Lord had put into the mind of the kings of Medes. So this is your physical overlay. Then we get the spiritual one at the end, because her plan is aimed at Babylon to destroy her. For it is the Lord's vengeance for her temple, for her daughters' bodies, temples. They tore us down. They weakened us under the religious law and law of man as God, told us we're not equal, told us that he's really God. He created everything. Your travail to bring forth children and create life don't really mean anything. All that matters is that you're found in obedience to his head, saying that he's God, right? And these women are fooled by their own lack of wisdom, which they're calling wisdom and is not. There's no wisdom found in them. So she tells her daughters, pick thyself up out of the dust of the earth and take back your throne. It was never Babylon's throne, the harlot bowing to this male idol. So she says, who shall ascend into my holy hill? She with clean hands and a pure heart, who has not lifted up her soul unto male idols, unto vanity. So raise up a signal flag against the walls of Babylon, fortify the watch post, set the watchmen in place, prepare the ambush, for the Lord hath both planned and accomplished what she has threatened against those who live in Babylon. Okay, so we're going to go down. It's a great chapter to read. But here in verse, I can't find the page I have it right down. We're going to hit the wall. Jeremiah 51:58. So it's a long ways down. This is a very long chapter. It tells us a lot about Babylon. But if we go to 58, it says this. We hit a wall in 58. And what does it say? This is what, Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the broad walls of Babylon shall be utterly broken, and her high gates shall be burned with fire, and the people shall labor in vain. How do you labor? Through your works in a idol that you say is God, but is nothing more than an idol. All of those is vain works. They're going to burn. Along right with the harlot and along with your king called Baal in this chapter, which is another name for your bridegroom. And the people shall labor in vain, and the folk in the fire, and they shall be weary. So we get a wall there. And so in verse 1, it says a destroying wind will bring the wall down. So it becomes very important to identify this wall and why it's so important to bring this wall down. And so we end up in Ezekiel 13, identifying this wall. And so, and the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, son of man, no, daughter of woman, that's Israel, the daughters in Israel. So I think she was talking to one of these wise women. Prophesy against the prophets of Israel who are prophesying. Say to those who prophesy out of their own imaginations, out of their own hearts and their wicked imaginations. So where does that take us to? We studied this chapter already, Jeremiah 23. They were prophesying through Baal, and they began to prophesy through the he pronoun, and they were not to do that. And so she says, you keep saying the burden of the Lord, the burden of the Lord. I told you not to prophesy the burden of the Lord. And so she said, what do you men keep doing? You prophesy the burden of the Lord. So we realize that many of the little books in the Old Testament has the burden of the Lord, the burden of the Lord. So we recognize that there was many false prophets that were prophesying the burden of the Lord, the burden of the Lord. Because in Jeremiah 23, she says, my children are no burden to me. I will deliver my children. But she says, I sent you not, yet you false prophets ran, and you prophesied the wicked visions and imaginations out of your own hearts, and you prophesied through Baal, and you led my people, my daughters, astray, and you say, peace, peace, when there really is no peace. You're wicked. You know why there's no peace? Because they took her rights away, and they yoked her under their religious lie and law. There will never be peace like that. Never. So she gets angry and she says, I promise you this, your burden will be your word, your swords, and your swords is going to turn on yourself. So what do we get? We get your word identified as your sword off of your tongue. We've got religions of the world, and what are they doing? They're turning on each other. Now at the end, they're promised to come together once again. We see this all shown to us in 2nd Ezra chapter 13. Yet all the men will dare to leave their lands to circle this woman rising out of the waters, out of the peoples, right? And yet they dare to come against her. And yet the words that come out of her mouth are like fire, and we find them burning with fervent heat, their anger. And yet we see every man standing around with his hands on his hips as if he's a woman in travail, as if he can give life. He's not the life giver. He's not the creator. He's not the maker. He's not the potter. She is, mother is. And she said, you denied the rock that gave life to you. You denied her. And you turned everything upside down. When you told the potter she had no power over her own creation, they turned my feet away, and yet they are my children. And the Shulamite says, look not upon me, the false light is shone upon me and made me black, but my own children, my own vineyard have I not kept. I've been too busy teaching his religious lies to my children, and I'm not delivering them into life. I'm delivering them into death. They're in the womb of Sheol, and they are trapped there. And yet there are these daughters who are managing to get out and make a run at that wall. So that's your allegory there. So say thou unto them that prophesy in their own hearts, Jeremiah 23. Hear ye the word of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord God. The Lord God that you're going to find always referenced in the book of Ezekiel is daughter Zion speaking. That's who's speaking. And she's speaking in the name of her mother. That's why it's often Lord God. Lord 136, God, her mother 3068. So God, her mother 3068 becomes 2163 in the New Testament, which is feminine masculine. So you do get mother and father there. But mother is the sovereign. She's the creator of the kingdom, and she writes the laws of the kingdom. And so we get Lord here, her daughter, as Lord God. So she's representing her mother is kind of the understanding here. But it's always going to be 136 for the Lord in the book of Ezekiel, because this is where she really tells you her story and how it all began. How the men were really turning upon and went against prophesying through their wicked imaginations and really just turning on the spirit of her covenant. So thus saith the Lord God, woe unto the foolish prophets that follow their own spirit, have seen nothing. They prophesied a whole bunch of foolishness out of their own wicked imaginations and saw nothing. But watch this. O Israel, thy prophets are like the foxes in the desert. So what did we discover the word fox meant? It meant a burrower, didn't it? What did we just see here with the word 3680 with if I be like Adam and cover over. So 368 means to fill up the hollows. So first it meant they had to dig out the truth. And so they actually dug out the truth. And they did have the idea then flips to a male dragon who becomes keen-sighted, able to influence governments from behind the scene because he's able to see the power of the kingdom, and it begins to show itself as a female power. And so he becomes keen-sighted like a dragon. To be a dragon means to be keen-sighted and to be able to spot your enemy. But in the end, it all begins to flip back around, and she begins to spy out her true enemy, which is the one who made the accusations in this book against her. And she says, but in the end, I'll use it to exonerate myself from his lies, and I'll set the case in order. So your prophets, Israel, are like jackals among the ruins, is another translation. Jackals will take you back to dragon as well. So like the foxes. So what's a fox? We identified this fox, perhaps jackal. If we go down here, the foxes, a fox. The same as Sheol, a jackal. So Sheol, not Shoal, they were digging into a place that they should have never been digging into. And it becomes the womb of Sheol is what we understand. Hollow handful. So they were digging out the truth, and then they began to whitewash the wall is what we see. So what do we find? Actually, Mother and Joshua, Mother Wisdom and Joshua saying, they say to the Shulamite, catch for us the foxes before they destroy the vineyard that's in bloom, before they destroy your children, your world. Teach them the truth. And then she says, who shall I teach the truth to? Those that are weaned from the breast? Because those who are grown and should have some wisdom don't want to hear anything that wisdom has to say. They don't want to hear it. So Ezekiel 13:4, we get the prophets of Israel like foxes in the desert, and we know that they dug at her wall. Ye have not gone up into the gaps, neither made up the hedge for the house of Israel to stand in the battle in the day of the Lord. And they have not. They have not yet gone up into the gap. And what we saw the men in Micah 2 doing was attacking the women as they passed through this breach. They were passing back and forth is what they were doing. And you know what the men did? They didn't stand with them in the day of the battle, or the day of the Lord. You know what they did? They turned on them, and they were as men at war, ripping their garments of glory away from them, is what they were doing in Micah 2. They were ripping their houses down, and they were destroying their birthright. And we know it was their houses because of Jeremiah 9. Jeremiah says to the wise women, come up and lament for yourself, lament for your daughters, and lament for your houses, because they have cast you out. Now, you can say, no, that's not it, but it is it, because we saw King Solomon doing it in, 1 Kings 19, where he find him buying off Jeroboam. You want to look at that in the last video that we posted here. So, we get all of it. It's all coming together, her case. So, ye have not gone up into the gaps, and you have not stood in the day of battle, in the day of the Lord. They have seen vanity and lying divinations. The Lord saith the Lord has not sent them, and they have made others to hope that they would confirm the word. Have ye not seen a vain vision, and have ye not spoken a lying divination, whereof ye say, the Lord saith it, albeit I have not spoken it? And she warned him in Jeremiah 23, you ran, I sent you not, yet you ran with your lies. And then you accused me, you turned on me, and you turned on my daughters, and you walled up the lie in your heart of exalting a harlot in there. And she says, no one sees me. I will never be widowless. I will never be childless. Yet mother says, you, Babylon, have been deceived by your own wicked wisdom, and it has perverted you. And you are perverted if you call an idol love. There's something wrong with you, and it debases women. All you got to do is look at the world law. So therefore, the Lord God, because ye have spoken vanity and seen lies, therefore, behold, I am against you, saith the Lord God, daughter Zion. My hand will be against the prophet who sees false visions. You who points to the heavens and say, look, Jesus is coming. Our idol. Oh, they don't say that. Man, God is coming. Oh, glory to Father and Son. Screw you, mother and daughter. But her wisdom, it has perverted her, and she's more than happy to play his harlot, I guess. My people are be recorded. So my hand will be against the prophet who sees false visions and speak lying divinations. They will not be present in the fellowship of my people, or be recorded in the register of the house of Israel. And they will not enter the land, and then you will know that I am the Lord God. Now watch this. Because, this is verse 10, because, where is it? In my notes here. Even because they have seduced my people, my daughters. It's the daughters we're talking about. All you got to do is look at Jeremiah. The first 10 chapters will tell you it was the daughters. That's the people being talked about here. Because even they have seduced my daughters, saying, peace. Don't worry, daughters. Oh, there's no equality in the land. There's no justice in the land. But peace. Just bow to me. I'm your head, sweetheart. I love you. Don't you know that? He washed you in blood. You don't wash in blood. You wash in water. She says in Isaiah 55, you need not anything. You can come to my waters of truth freely, and you can wash the blood off of you. And she says that to her daughters in Isaiah 4:4. I will wash the blood off of my daughters. I will wash the filth. That's manure there, that you see the priests actually spewing vomit on the tables when they get drunk on the red wine. Your Red Sea and allegories, admixture of doctrine, that we've actually got the part as the presence of God. But you see them getting drunk on it, the priests in Isaiah 28 or 29, and they vomit, they spew this lie that they get drunk on power. Right? And they spew this filth. And when you look the word up there for the filth or vomit that they've spewed there, it is human excrement. And so wash the filth and blood off. The word human excrement takes us to the Lord of dung. And the Lord of dung is Baal. And Baal is another name for your husband and bridegroom. Daniel 2, the idol built by kings from every successive kingdom. We saw Solomon tearing the wise women's houses down, which was their rightful inheritance that you find referenced in Micah 2. It was women that they were taking their rightful inheritance from, and we find King Solomon doing it. We find Hezekiah actually tearing the female representation down. He wasn't quite as bad maybe as King Solomon, but he was certainly in there. So what does she say? Because they have seduced my daughter, saying peace. Oh, peace, yeah, peace and security, dear daughters. and they will be like women in travail. These sons will be trying to deliver the children that don't belong to them. It is not men who deliver children, it is women, and women represents the Holy Spirit that man actually turned on. We're talking righteous daughters. We're not talking about the perverted harlot Babylon who thinks she's got the truth and she's got nothing more than a lie because she can't reason out what love looks like. Peace, and there was no peace, and one built up a wall, and lo, others daubed it with untempered mortar. Watch this. Since I have led my people astray, my daughters astray, saying, peace. When there is no peace, go to Jeremiah, you'll find peace, peace. For when someone builds a wall, they plaster it with whitewash. Who built the wall? He daubed it over. Job 31:33. If I be like Adam and hide iniquity in my bosom, watch the boys on the pulpit hiding that iniquity in their heart. They've got her whitewashed so good. And yet it's so thinly covered over according to what you read in the Word. So we'll look it up. So Ezekiel 13:10 will go into the interlinear. This is the where she's going to show up. So the word is 8602 with untempered mortar. So I'll just, rather than go down, tasteless, unseasoned, figurative of unsatisfying prophecies. Well, who would they be unsatisfying for? Well, certainly not for Baal. He loves them. Figurative of false prophets and foolish things. That's what it's figurative of. So they whitewash the wall. They actually daub it over this lie. After the foxes, your prophets, Israel, are like foxes in the deserts. They dug out the truth, and then they fix in a false foundation, which is the harlot that he's got exalted in his heart that you find in Isaiah 47. She says, no one sees me. Oh, Babylon, you harlot. Your wisdom, it has perverted you and made you man's fool. Yeah. From an unused root meaning to smear, plaster as gummy or slimy. Frivolity, foolish things, unsavory, untempered. Figurative of false prophets. So we see them digging at the wall as these foxes, and then we see the beloved male. There's a beloved female and a beloved male. I think the beloved male is Joshua, not the idol of Jesus. Joshua that's in bloom, but at the same time you are gave free will to accept the truth. And there it goes down for a second here. Okay, audio Bible. That's what that is. Okay, so now we're going to go back out because we're going to hit the wind. That's going to be Job 51, verse 1 that we read, that we said to lock in mind. So what does it say? Say unto them which daub it with untempered mortar, that it shall fall. There shall be an overflowing shower, and ye, O great hailstones, shall fall, and a stormy wind shall rend it. Shall break it, because when the wall has fallen, will you not be asked, where's the plaster with which you plastered it with the lie? The lie. And they say when the overflowing scourge comes in, oh, it won't touch us. They say this in Isaiah 28. This is the covenant of lies to be disannulled. This is the religious lie of the marriage covenant. Man over here is your head. He's God on the earth. I actually heard this preached in the churches a couple of times that we went to. One of the men stood up. He made the mistake of correcting himself, and he should have never done it. Because, you know, when you do stuff like this, you're just asking to be caught. But he stood up and he said, well, you know, man and woman. And he stopped himself from saying the word woman. Well, he said man. Man is the image of God. Excuse me? Hello? What did you just say there? You just said woman was not the image of God. You just said man. Because he stopped himself from including woman in that. So what was his tiny brain thinking? You know what his tiny brain was thinking? She's less. Just like this preaching of these male idols makes him, you know, the authority over the law and over her, and she's got no rights, right? Justice, equity, and truth could not enter in because truth staggered in the streets. It tells you that in the book of Daniel, when the harlot was exalted to her commander, as commander. She exalted herself to commander of the host. You know how she got there? Through him. And when she got there, he got there. And he's the king of Babylon now, baby. Look out. He's your ruler. He's your head. No, he ain't. And it doesn't really matter, boys, if you want to argue and fight against us shepherdesses that you are to hearken to, you're going to come down off your high horses. You will. That's a promise by the Almighty. So you can choose to ignore it, but you understand there's an end coming to this all. And we see it. Lo, when the wall is fallen, shall it not be said unto you, where's the daubing, the lie, that you whitewashed your lie in with? Where is it? Therefore, thus saith the Lord God, I will even rend it with a stormy wind in my fury, and there shall be an overflowing shower in mine anger, and great hailstones in my fury to consume it. So will I break down the wall that ye have daubed with your untempered mortar, and bring it down to the ground, so that the foundation thereof shall be discovered. That's your harlot spirit, your rock, your stone that you put in play, and denied your true foundation stone, which was the righteous daughter of Zion, where you were to receive the law that governed this kingdom, and you denied her for a harlot, so you could play God, and you walled up your transgression so nobody could discover it. And yet she says, oh, if he wrote a book, if my accuser, man, who did he accuse in the beginning? He accused her. That's who he accused. And if he wrote his accusations in a book, I would wear it like a crown. And in the end, I would use it to exonerate myself. And she wins her court case according to that, because she and her branch, her scepter of daughters, the 7,000 that have not bowed their knee to Baal, husband as Lord and God. We also get the idea of 144,000, not certain about that one. But they certainly are there with the Shulamite. She has a double camp. We know a single camp is identified as 72,000. So with the Shulamite, and they're also identified as she-goats. That's important because it takes us to the Genesis 15:9 covenant. They're also called the lilies of the covenant. And they're found with the Shulamite. And they're also known as the daughters of Zion. So will I break down the wall that ye have daubed with untempered mortar, and bring it down to the ground, so that the foundation thereof shall be discovered, and it shall fall, and ye shall be consumed in the midst thereof, and ye shall know that I am the Lord. She says in one passage, I alone am the Lord. And it's a reference to wisdom that governs your kingdoms. Without wisdom, you're destined to end in a nasty way. This is where this kingdom's heading, if it doesn't wake up to wisdom. Thus will I accomplish my wrath upon the wall, and upon them that have daubed it with untempered mortar. And I will say unto you, the wall is no more, neither they that daubed it, to wit, the prophets of Israel, which prophesy concerning Jerusalem, Israel, I think, and which see visions of peace for her, and there is no peace, saith the Lord God. So they are promising us that this religious life, man as her head, and how God's going to come, he's going to come, Father and Son's going to establish a mighty kingdom that'll be for all eternity, and these are the great promises of peace, and there is no peace. No, the man is your head. Look at this. It's not a male head sitting on my female body. You know what it is? It's a female head, and that's my head. It ain't your head. Your head don't sit on my body. It is wisdom that is the sovereign over the kingdom. She created everything. By creating the children in this kingdom, it means that she literally creates everything. That's what it means. So let's see. And you can set your face against the daughters of thy people, which prophesy out of their own heart. So we can read all this because it also takes to the sun in the inner wall. So we understand that they also had women that was prophesying as well about a male god. We also saw them actually making two idols. So this is where it began. The men were prophesying through a male god, and the women were prophesying through the daughters of heaven, and they were completely ignoring the instructions of wisdom. And she says, you are to make no idol, no image, neither male nor female, in Deuteronomy 4, you are to follow my way. And that way was to come off my daughter's tongue, but in your pride, you denied it. So, in the end, she comes out showing you who she is, I guess, is how you kind of got to look at it. So is that everything? Yeah, so in Isaiah 45, they say it's a reference to, what's his name? Oh, what's the name of the king? I knew it, like the back of my hand, now I can't remember it. Cyrus, King Cyrus. Cyrus just means anointed one. They translated it out for a male, but it's a physical, and then your spiritual overlay is actually the daughter, the anointed one. And she says, I will make the gates open for you. And at the end, we see she that has the ability, who holds the key of David. What she opens, no one can shut, and what she shuts, no one can open. Because the gateway belongs to her. It's the allegory of birthing children. And she says, long time have I held my peace. Now will I go forth as a travailing woman. I will destroy and devour at once. I will lead you in pathways that you have not known. Let's read it. And we'll end on that for now. And there's so many other things that we could throw in there, and we've done it over and over and over again. And I hate to have to keep reiterating it. And yet I saw a professional broadcaster, I won't say which one, and she said, she said in a particular interview, she was talking on a particular interview, and she said this male interviewer had these ladies on the board, against the board, and he knew it, but she said he was a professional and they were not. And she said the one thing that they did wrong is they did not keep reiterating their stance and why it was what it was. And she said, I, as a professional journalist, knows that you have to keep reiterating those facts in order to keep it fresh in the mind of those who are listening so that they know exactly why you stand where you stand. And so, you kind of got to take some lessons that make sense. And so I do keep reiterating it. For anybody that may be coming on and go, no, just she's speaking about foolishness. There's no word in there, because these are people who do not want to, has not come to the understanding that you actually got to search for the truth in a deep spiritual way. You got to ask the Spirit to show it to you, and then you really got to go in, dig deep in hard study. And these are the ones that's right out on the surface, just looking at you just on a very surface, because they're still in this perverted wisdom that they think they're holding on to the truth, and just have not completely realized that if they really want the truth, they really got to dig for it. And so if they happen to hit on my videos without me reiterating anything, they're simply not going to find anything to maybe catch on to and go, okay, well, maybe there's something to listen to here. So that's why I keep doing it. And I know you probably get tired of me doing it, but it's important that I do. So what do we find in Isaiah 42? She says this, the Lord shall go forth as a mighty, not man, as a mighty woman of war. She shall stir up jealousy like a woman of war. She shall cry, yea, roar. She shall prevail against her enemies. And you prevail when you go searching for the truth. And you recognize it. Your wisdom hasn't been perverted. You know what true love looks like. And a woman bowed down at the feet of a man, and him with a harlot exalted in there, treating you as if you're less, is not love. That's hate. You don't wash in blood, you wash in water. Go wash in blood. All right. From now on, wash in blood if you believe their lies. I mean, it's just going to clean you. You're not going to be stained in this lie. So she goes forth, and it says, the Lord shall awaken. The Lord's number in that particular verse, where is it? Psalm 77 or 78. It says, the Lord shall awaken as a warrior that's been drunk on wine. The wine is the admixture of religious lies sitting on your table, which you have to part. It's your Red Sea, an allegory. And the presence says, at the end of that, she says, my footsteps were never seen. You never saw my pathway, because this admixture of religious lies and lust come in and covered over my pathway. You didn't see them. So now we have this travailing woman going forth, and she is a warrior that wakens from the wine. She says, I shall stir up jealousy like a woman of war. I shall cry. They got him, understand. I shall roar. I shall prevail against my enemies. We'll put her in there. I have long time holding my peace. Peace, peace. when there is no peace. And lo, one built up a wall and daubed in a lie. But remember, it's a whitewash. It's a thinly holding lie. And once we break through it, we break through it. And it says, she will go up, and the Lord on their head. The Lord is our wisdom on our head. And that may be the true spirit, the true daughter, wisdom herself, 136, that's been guiding us into all these truths. She is out there, and she is going to lead us forth out of this womb of Sheol. It says the kings are trapped in the womb of Sheol. It says the snare they laid for us to fall into, they and their harlots have fallen into it, and they will not escape it because they are perverted by their own wisdom. I have long time holding my peace. I have been still, and I have restrained myself. Now will I cry like a travailing woman, because that's what I am. I'm going to deliver my children. I will destroy, and I will devour at once. I will make waste mountains and hills. I will dry up all their herbs, and I will make the rivers islands, and I will dry up the pools. And I will bring the blind by a way that they knew not. I will lead them in pathways that they have not known. I will make darkness light before them, and crooked things straight. There we go. These things will I do unto them, and I will not forsake them. Why? Because our mother loves us. They shall be turned back. They shall be greatly ashamed that trusted in graven images, that say to the molten images, ye are our gods, father and son, and usually another male. It doesn't matter which of these main religions that you go to, you're going to find man at the head of it all, and she's bowed down at his feet. Daniel 2, they made an idol. Nebuchadnezzar represented the head of this golden idol. Yes, because they were to make no idols, but the kings decided that that was actually going to empower them and get them all of her goods. And she was greatly rich, according to the Bible. Wisdom had really blessed her with many riches. It had yielded, and the kings were looking at her riches in jealousy. And they said, hey, if we can subdue her and oppress her, we get all of those riches unto us, and we're going to get her playing our harlot. Yeah, and Solomon was one of the greatest male harlots in the Bible. He was one of the greatest dogs in the Old Testament. He had 700 wives and 200 concubines, didn't he? I mean, wow. And they got the nerve to accuse her. Oh my gosh. They're the biggest harlots going. And wanting you to bow to them. I mean, they get off on this. They really do. But it's all there. If the truth truly matters to you, you're going to start seeking it. You're going to start searching it, and you're going to use wisdom, the Spirit, to reason it out. And if you're calling Jesus love and Father love, and screw you, mother and daughter, hey, why don't you go to those male channels that build nothing but a male idol up and ask them about the female? Why don't you do that instead of coming to my channel and asking about Father? Why don't you try doing that for a change? So anyway, there's the video I promised. Perhaps not as thorough. We'll keep touching on and off of these things and other topics as we go. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thank you for being here. I apologize if I say anything that seems mean or unjustified. I am just a human being. We all say things and do things maybe we shouldn't. And, I might have been out of line talking about the lady that I talked about. I shouldn't have said what I said. I apologize if you are watching. I realize we're all humans and we make mistakes and we blunder and say things that we shouldn't say. That's part of being raised up in under a law system that is so crooked and perverse in the way that we think and look at things, that it does taint us oftentimes, and we end up saying things that maybe we would be better off just letting our words be yay, yay, nay, nay. So forgive me for that, and I do thank you for being along on this study. I appreciate you being here, appreciate you making the comments that you make, whether I agree with them or not. I do appreciate any who's coming here, maybe searching for truth despite what they're saying, despite the comments that they make. They must be here searching, or they wouldn't be here. So I do thank you. I thank you for being on this climb with me. I love my core group of women. You're so special. I see the specialness in you. Each one of you are so unique and special. And I appreciate you so much. You can't know it. So thank you. I pray the Lord blesses you with an abundance of truth, and I pray you all have a lovely day. And thanks again.